Here on All Mixed Up this morning at 105.5 WDHA, I'm joined by Vicki Peterson and John Cowsill. They've got a brand new album that's been out a few weeks now called Long After the Fire. Vicki, John, good morning and welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Really, thank
Good
you.
morning to you.
I've heard about half of the new album, and there's a real country flavor to it. And John, when I think of the Cowsills, and I know these songs are primarily by your brothers Bill and Barry, when I think of the Cowsills, I don't think of country music. Where did that come from?
It's
Bill,
funny.
Bill, and my lust for country music.
Yeah.
I mean, but Bill wrote that way. Bill was the cowboy and everything in between, and he just. I mean, it's always been our idea. My first record I bought was El Paso by Marty Robbins.
Oh, wow.
So there you
I
go.
I think the first record my parents would have bought it. The first record I would have stumbled onto was At the Hop by Danny and the Juniors.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, yeah, and Bill was
That's
into
classic.
that doo-wop stuff too, and old Elvis rock and roll. But I wasn't so much into the '50s stuff as I was the '50s country stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but
And you say you've heard half the album. Well, pretty much exactly half the album is classic country sounding. And as John said, that was what inspired Bill when he was very young. And then as a grown-up, when he was in Canada, he was doing a lot of writing and co-writing with some fine folk and doing a lot of that sort of Everly Brothers,
mhm.
Waylon Jennings, like old school kind of country.
That was that Blue Shadows period, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Right on.
Him and Jeffrey Hatcher wrote a lot of great songs, and Mark Irwin and Ralph Boyd Johnson were co-writers with Bill always, and just that's the flavor. Hank Williams meets the Beatles is how I look at the Blue Shadows on the Floor of Heaven album.
As I'm listening to the records, and I did have a chance to see the both of you when you were in Hoboken last summer in July. A couple of things came to mind. One would have been Graham and Emmylou,
Yeah.
Rodney and Emmylou. You can hear that. Some of Karen Grotberg's work with the
Oh.
Jayhawks, that vocal blend of the male female.
Great.
Oh wow.
They're
That's
great.
cool.
Thank you
We
for
like
the
that.
compliments and comparison.
And the other that struck me, and this was a male duo, and I think you know both of them, is Bill Lloyd and Radney Foster, Foster and Lloyd.
Just talked to Bill Lloyd the other day.
We just saw Bill in Nashville.
He just gave me a all instrumental CD that he just did, so he's not even singing on it. So that I haven't listened to it yet. I have to listen to it. I just refound it in my bag when he gave it to me. So, and
I've
then
played
I sent him our album just recently, so he'll get that tomorrow.
I've played 3 tracks from Bill's Instrumental album recently. There's
Oh.
one that it sounds very much like Jimi Hendrix called Foxy Loopy.
Oh my gosh.
There's another one that sounds like, and I can't remember the name of it. It sounds like a TV show theme song. And then there's another one that's kind of Miles Davis meets Vince Guaraldi. It's a really, really good record.
Yeah, Bill is Bill's a trip, man. He's always got a grin on his face when he's working.
One of the things that struck me as I'm listening to the album and then, mentioning that I saw you back in Hoboken this past summer was neither of you have really been a solo artist. You've been out front occasionally in a various project or what have you, but neither of you have been a solo artist per se. What has that transition been like for you with this?
Good question.
Now we're solo artists together. So we've always been, as I say, John and I are both serial band members. We've been in bands since we started this whole process at very young ages. John younger than I even, and that was always kind of for me it was kind of a source of comfort. For John, I think it was just happenstance. That's just he happened to be in this beautiful big talented family that grabbed him and said, "Okay, sit here, play this, hit this with sticks, go." And so this is the first time that either John or I have had our own names on a project. And it is pretty weird and fun and maybe about time, I could say.
Yeah, I think if two people listening to the way you harmonize, both on record and live, listening to the way you harmonize, like, what took you so long to finally decide, yeah, let's do this?
It's true. We were a very domestic couple in our marriage. And it's so funny. I always describe it as a couple of gunslingers walking around the room saying, "You go first," and we just didn't, And so I smelled garlic, onions, and olive oils, didn't know she could cook. And it's like, it was all about that. And I'd be remodeling the kitchen. I'm a woodworker. And so that was our life. And because we would both go on the road, she'd be bangling and I'd be beach playing for years. And then, there was a benefit concert for my brother Bill, who was ill, and probably the early 2000s that we did this. And the song that we chose, we said, we're going to sing a song at this benefit. And it was the first time we ever really sang together intentionally,
Right.
Just the two of us. And the song was called 1,000 Times. And that was our first single on the album that loaded. And it just kind of cute and sweet. And that
kind of nice. 20 years later, we actually record the thing.
and it was time. And, we would be in our studio and people would send us, "Hey, can you put vocals on a thing?" So we did that occasionally. Mm-hmm. But Vicki will agree, it wasn't until we started working with Bill Mooney we created a band called Action Skulls, that we really found our voices like on another level, because she was writing more with Bill and Vicki hadn't been writing a lot lately. And so the co-writings were happy, and I got to write a little bit. I'm not a good writer. But singing together became more, and we're singing leads now in this band. So for me personally, that was like the first time I'd ever been a collaborator as a principal person in the band, because I've always been a side guy, even really in the Cowsills, because I was so young. I was being taught by my older brothers. Although I wanted to be there. I mean, I picked up the drums kit alone, until I got noticed, and then I was hired into the band. But anyway, so it wasn't until then that Vicki and I got motivated and singing together, and then and we've had this project on the back burner for about a decade.
Well, it's true, yeah.
And speaking of being out in front, most recently, John, you've been doing some shows with the Smithereens. I'll put my Smithereens shirt up for the camera to see, who have been longtime friends of mine, Jimmy and Dennis and Mike and the late Pat Denizio. We go back a long way. What has that experience been like? I have not yet seen you with the band. I'm hoping to maybe catch the show in Philly in a couple of weeks. But everyone I know who has seen it just raves.
Well, I bring a different element to it. I'm kind of energetic, and so and then you get Robin Wilson, who's just a great front man, and he's with the Jim Blossoms, and he brings the game, and then Marshall brings his game. So it's you get three versions of the Smithereens, but all loving the lyrics and the guys, and I've just known them for a long time. Cowsills, they approached Cowsills to sing on their Blow Up album. So that was 1990 or 91. Yeah. Anyway, so that was huge to us. Anyway, but after the dismissal from the Beach Boys, I didn't know what I was going to really do, because Vicki always asked me, "Hey, so what's your B plan? How are you getting out of the Beach Boys?" And I was told, I don't work in B plans. I just have an A plan, and then when that one goes away, I start another A plan.
The next A plan.
The next A plan. But I called Dennis Dyken up after that, and I was nudged by our producer, Paul Allen. "Hey, man, call Smithereens. You always told them you wanted to sing with them." And I did. And I called Dennis up and I said, "I want to sing Time and Time Again with you guys in New Jersey." And so I did it at the Wonder Bar with them, and Vicki was there with me. And we got on stage at the end of the show and sang with them. And then I flew to Ojai, California, and sang with them one more time at the Libby Bowl. And their manager was there, and they asked me, "Do I want to do more?" Yes. A year went by later, and then they finally called me and said, "Hey, I got this one show for you. You want to do it?" It's like I had to learn 29 songs to go do the one show, but I was willing to do that. Then they gave me plenty of prep time, and then I did that, and it just turned into a bunch of shows. I got like 16 or 14 shows on the books now with them, and I'm having a blast doing that. And I've always been somebody's drummer, and so I've never sung at a microphone just a whole show and a lot of songs in a row. And I didn't know if I would be able to do that, because I'm a 3-song night guy and I do backgrounds all night. But it's been okay. It's been fun. It's been fun. That's the main thing, and that's
he's great at it. He's just great at it. So
I have to say that
super rock, and I mean the band is incredible.
The band's
as you
great.
know, they're really wonderful. They're just, it's.
And I get to be on stage and watch Dennis play drums up
Yeah.
close. I just love that, you know. And Jim, I'm like leaning on his shoulder, watching him play guitar. You know? The best seat in the house to be in the Smithereens.
I have to tell you, John, your videos that you were posting on Instagram while you were trying to learn all of these songs before that first gig, they were hilarious.
Did you see the one when I fell in the fountain?
Yes, I did. I didn't want to bring that up. I'm glad you did.
I took that and I was like, okay, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Oh, this is really good. He got a little too excited.
I was playing air guitar to Jimmy's thing and I didn't know the Paul was behind me. Oh my God, that was so funny.
You referenced a few minutes ago the song 1,000 times, and on the video, John, you say, put on the radio. And I wanted to ask you, what was the experience like hearing yourself on the radio for the very first time? John, we'll go back like to the 60s. Vicki, for you, I think you were in London, Vicki, when the Bangs first got airplay, right?
Mm-hmm. I was actually in England when the first time the Bangs were played by Rodney Bingenheimer, Rodney on the Rocks. But I'm going to just skip forward 40, 50 years and 40 years. And John and I were doing a podcast at a friend's house and recently, and we got back in the car to leave, and I turned on the radio, and 1,000 times was playing. And of course, what am I assuming? That I had it on my phone somehow, and it was coming through the sound system. But no, it was on Sirius Radio, Outlaw Country channel, and we freaked out more so than I think when I was 22 and hearing myself on the radio the first time. We were so excited to hear that song on the radio.
And we saw our name underneath it. It's like, oh my God. And thank you, Adam Saltzman, who is the program director over there. I gave that to him. And he got it on Outlaw Country for us. And Zach at Outlaw Country put it on there. We got to meet them all because we went to Sirius Radio. Anyway, but that was like more exciting than I think.
It does not get old because, you know, I'll hear the Bangles. I'm at CBS or something, and, you know, and you'll hear it over the sound system. And I'll go, oh, hey, I know that song. Yeah, I know them. This was something else entirely. Yeah. This was very exciting.
Because it was us.
It was us.
Yeah. We were excited.
Let me go back to the album, Long After the Fire. John, you were there as these songs were being written by your brothers. What's it like bringing them to life with your wife?
It was an emotional roller coaster, really, because I'm very emotional. I work on my emotions anyway. But yeah, I mean, some of the songs date back to when Barry was 15, like Don't Look Back. And and I remember we roomed together. And so I was there for when he wrote that, and we recorded it on a Cowsill album. And Bill, I remember when he started coming around the house and singing Vagabond, you know. And that's an older song too. A lot of this stuff is old. And I mean, the newest stuff is probably from Blue Shadows, which is, you know, the
90s,
early 90s.
Yeah.
It's just, and then when you're singing them and you know them so well, it has an effect on you. You know, sometimes I couldn't get through a recording. Tell them the rest of the story.
Yeah, it was sweet. It's very heartfelt. This record is, you know, comes straight from our heart, and it's a privilege to be able to pay tribute to these two incredible writers.
And reintroduce their
songs. And have people. It's up until really recently, it was difficult to find even Blue Shadows on streaming platforms, and you couldn't, you know, God forbid you find it on a physical form. And the same with a lot of Barry's songs. You know, Don't Look Back, you can find on a Cowsills record, and that one you know, hopefully you have in your collection already. But if you don't, it's going to be a little tough to find. And so it was a joy for us to bring them back into the spotlight.
Yeah, and bring those songs to the spotlight and reintroduce them to Barry and Bill, and they'll go find their versions of these things on there, because it's just wonderful. It's why we recorded them, and to see what incredible songwriters they both were, and we left way too soon. So it's just another introduction to their songs and their catalog. You can go listen to the Blue Shadows now, even on Spotify. Barry's is not as easy to find because he never really released stuff that went out. You know, he did it the old way. I just recorded this stuff, I'll put it out wherever I possibly can, you know. But so hopefully his will get more attention, and you can find stuff on the internet of Barry's versions of songs and stuff. So
You mentioned getting emotional just now, and having seen the two of you perform these songs last summer at 503 Social in Hoboken, there was a feeling that there was someone else in the room that night besides the audience and the two of you. I don't know if you felt it, but there was an overwhelming spiritual quality, if you will, to what was happening.
Yeah, we feel that. We feel them with us all the time when we're doing that. And if you forget, they remind you quickly that they're there. I'm serious. It does feel like that.
There are those moments.
No,
Sure.
I'm not an overly spiritual person or a religious person at all. But I do feel that weight, and I feel that. I feel it.
I think we both, and I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but we both believe that Bill and Barry would approve of this project.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? I don't know. They're not here to answer that.
They're not here to say yes or no, so we're good to go.
Yeah. So they aren't here to say yes or no, or recording these songs would have been hunting for the publishing and to pay the licensing fees for them was very difficult because we had to find where the songs were. Because we wanted to go through the proper channels and make sure that people get paid for whatever we used of their songs, because they weren't here to say, no, go ahead and just record it. I'll sign the thing. You can do it for free. So we went through the proper channels and it was a lot of work. It took about a year and a half
Some
to
detective
find
work.
all the metadata on the songs, that have codes that go with them. So people,
some don't.
So the money finds where the publishing is and who gets it. And, that's his kids and Bill's kids, basically.
Last question that I have for you. We are roughly the same age, the three of us, and we all have in common February of 1964, the Beatles. In fact, John, you have a picture of the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show on your Facebook page. For me, and John, probably won't remember this, but when we did meet in July last year, I mentioned to you that I had seen, as of my very first concert, was the Cowsills in Asbury Park.
Oh,
and
lucky.
Again, we're about the same age, and I'm looking at you going, boy, that looks like a lot of fun. I think I could do that. Now, I never got to that level, but I learned how to play the drums and I've learned how to play the guitar. And I've been in a couple of different bands and we've had a good time. But I was wondering, obviously the Beatles are a reference point, but was there somebody on a more local level? John, it might have been your brothers. Was there somebody on a more local level for you that went, yeah, I think I can do this?
No, it was Ringo.
It was Ringo for you, for sure.
Just Ringo.
Ringo's a million miles away. He might as well have been on Mars.
But he was on my TV set, man, and I saw that drum set, and I looked at drum sets when we'd go out to dinner and just, there's some band just playing on the side. But look at the drum set. I mean, they're just magical. Drums were, it was about how they looked that made me want to play them. There's so much stuff there and sparkles and yeah, I loved
shiny.
it. I took to it. I loved it. I was able to do it right away. And that's a magical thing. We all could just sit down and play. The night that drum set came in, it was Neil Sylvia's. It was a 50s era Slingerland kit that my dad borrowed from a carpenter friend of his. And that came in and we all sat down, set up in the living room, and Barry played for a while. Barry was a great drummer. Barry's a great musician at anything, at any age. I mean, listen to his bass line on Hair. How old was he when he played that? That thing thumps.
Great.
People say, who is that? Don't Look Back. The bass line of Don't Look Back. Cool. Is Vicki, you'll hear it on our record. And that's Barry who wrote that part. And she painstakingly.
I learned it. Well, I wanted to learn it since I was, 10. And I started, thinking, this is a fantastic bass part. And I was not a bass player. I had been playing guitar for about a year. But I started learning it then, and then I finished learning it in 2024. So there you go. It took me a while.
But back to the drum set. Yes, I mean, Ringo was my inspiration. And it's funny because, he tells me this, but Greg Bissonette says, no, man. I saw you on Ed Sullivan, we're the same age. And between Ringo and you, that's why I play drums, it's like, yeah, I think it's Ringo, but I always thought that was cool that he said that to me.
The album is called Long After the Fire. The next time you can see John in our area will be with the Smithereens, June 6th at City Winery in Philadelphia. Any chance we get you back as a duo here in the New York, New Jersey area?
Oh, absolutely. We're working on that.
Yeah,
We have to come back.
And sometimes we open for the Smithereens, and
Yeah.
they do that whenever they can pull that off, and that's fun for us too, because then the whole night's a party. Because I'll do the Smithereens, we'll open, then I'll do my thing with the Smithereens, and then we'll both come up on stage and sing songs with the Smithereens. It's really fun.
At the end of the show. Yeah.
You can check out all the details on their website, vickyandjohn.com. John Cowsill, Vicki Peterson, thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're awesome.
Thrilled to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.